Okay, so if you I just want to curious about something here, and forgive me for stirring up the controversy and going down a crazy rabbit trail, but I'm going to
don't make me yell at you, Kevin.
You probably will, but Devin will love me for asking this question. You will yell at me, and Chris will not pick a tail. That's what's going to happen.
Chris, I want you to yell at Kevin.
You have the opportunity to draft Pettersson first or Svechnikov. I pronounced it right. Who are you taking?
You're taking the center. You're taking Petey.
Chris?
Yeah, I would have to. Bias is showing, but I'd have to go Petey as well.
Yeah, I'm as much as I want to disagree. You have to go Pettersson in the center, and I'm curious what their points are.
I'll pull up a comparison.
Yeah, right now. So as of last year, Svechnikov had 42 points in 55 games. Year before was 61 points in 68 games, so almost a point per game player.
Yeah, pull it up here. Petey's got a better point per game over the three. They both have played 3 games. Svechnikov's played 40 more games, but Petey's still got more points overall. So I'll pull that up.
And I think you meant to say they both played 3 years.
Yeah, both played 3 years.
Yeah.
You see, Svechnikov's got 205 games played. Petey's played 165, but Petey still has more points.
Yeah.
So when I look at that and the fact that Petey is a center, it's a no-brainer. You take Petey.
Yeah, the reason I asked is I think right now, like if you're just basing on last year, probably Svechnikov is playing better than Petey, but I do agree with you. When you said it, I was sort of I had a little bit of a wow, he's going to get more than 775, but you're right. I think Petey's going to get in the 8 million range. I'm just was curious about where you put that, and I the reason I thought Sean might yell at me is because I don't know if it's a fair comparison because you're comparing a center to a winger, and I don't always know if that's a completely fair comparison there. But that's why I brought it up. But I can see where Sean is coming from. That's probably an $8 million cap hit. But
yeah, I don't have a real strong opinion on as far as the cap is concerned. But as like Sean said. And going back to Devin's question, whether they're doing a bridge deal or a long-term deal, like you've seen it written both ways online, and just due to the cap constraints, it really is hard to say. But like Sean said, you think if it was a bridge deal, it would have happened by now. So you got to assume that they're trying to go long-term for both at this point.
Yeah, and people outside the Vancouver market don't realize it, but Petey is a franchise number 1 center in this league. There's that. I don't think, and from my point of view, there's no. It's hard to argue or dispute that. If you're saying, I'm not saying he's better than McDavid, Oiler fans. That I, by the way, got trolled by them the last couple of weeks. That's a whole other sidebar because of something I said, but. But he's a legitimate number 1 center franchise type center. So
I feel like we've had our expectations skewed for young players when you've had McDavid come in and Draisaitl come in, let alone some other players.
Austin Matthews.
Petey is in his career in the 165 games he's played. He scores at a .93 points per game rate, and he's only 21. Like he's only going to get better for 22. He's only going to get better from here on out too. He's going to get better defensively. He's going to get stronger. He's going to be able to do a lot more because he's going to be able to learn from these past 3 seasons. If we look back in 2-3 years and he's not a point. If he hasn't bumped up his point per game rate over a point per game, I'll be very surprised. And that's what you want from a number 1 center. He is definitely a number 1 center, and anyone saying otherwise is just they're blind or they're just trolling,
or they're biased.
And yeah, like looking at the cap situation for the Canucks right now, I think obviously the reason why they are, I don't think something's been solidified as of yet. They have $10.66 million in cap space, and they still have to sign Quinn Hughes as well. So I think ideally, if I was Jim Benning, I would have been fired already. But I think if he really wanted to do it and should do it this way, he should lock up PD long term and do a bridge deal with Quinn Hughes for maybe a year or two, and then give him the contract that Quinn Hughes deserves. Because I think if you really look at it, Quinn Hughes still has a little bit more to learn. You know what you're getting with Pettersson, but Quinn Hughes, you don't know exactly what you're getting from him as of yet, because he is younger, a year younger. He's a defenseman, which take a bit longer to develop and to learn in this league. And for a offensive-driven defenseman, you still want to see him develop more, be more well-rounded within the NHL game.
When you take into account the Furland on the LTIR, who you think's going to be on the actual 23 man roster for the Canucks, they've got just over $17 million to sign these two players. So I think they've got the cap room to find a way to make a long-term deal for at least one of them, maybe even both. I agree with Devin in where he's coming at with. I think if you're going to go long-term with anyone, I think you have to go with Petey, because again, you know what you're going to get, and he's going to drastically improve. But within that same mindset, if you're confident in Hughes being able to take that next step defensively, and because you know what you're going to get offensively from him, you might be able to get him at a more of a discount if you go long term now, as opposed to doing treating him like a PK PK Subban in Montreal, where they gave him the short term bridge deal, and then now he's making $9 million. So I think if you can find a way to maybe go bridge between like your standard 3-year bridge deal for a player like Hughes, maybe go 4 or 5 and extend that contract out a little bit longer, might work. But I believe it's 4 years that they can go without walking him to UFA, if I remember correctly with Hughes.
Right.
So I think 4 if you go 5, you have to make sure you're winning. You have to make sure that he's happy. Otherwise, you're walking him straight to UFA, and he's out the door.
Yeah. It's certainly interesting. And I think that this is going to get resolved fairly quickly here. I don't think that this is, I don't see this lasting a heck of a lot longer. I mean, it could get to training camp, but I don't see it, but we'll see. But yeah, I would agree. I think right now I would agree with Devin and Sean on that. Give Petey the long-term deal, give Hughes the short-term bridge deal would be the way I go. But they'll hopefully
they're not the only big name RFAs that are still out there.
Yeah. One of them you mentioned there was Rasmus Dahlin is still out there. Brady Tkachuk is still out there. There's a few out there.
Kirill Kaprizov is still out there. Drake Batherson, Anthony Beauvillier. Nailed it. Kyler Yamamoto. Robert Thomas is...
The Flames should offer sheet. If you want a troll job, the Flames should be looking at an offer sheet of Kyler Yamamoto.
Love it.
The underrated one that hasn't signed yet is Robert Thomas. I don't think people realize how good Robert Thomas is, and that's saying a lot, because he was a big part of that cup winning team with St. Louis a couple years ago.